Hi, my name is Jakob Munck, and welcome to a short video lecture about racism. What is racism? Racism is the idea that one race is on a higher moral level than other races. That means gods and human beings and everyone has to adore, to admire this race more than other races. Races has some kind of hierarchical order, the higher races and the lower races. You will find this idea in Hinduism, in the teaching of reincarnation, but also in the monotheistic religions. You will find this idea that some races has a higher value than other races. Well, what is a race? You can look in a dictionary. Races can be defined in many ways. For example, they can be defined by their genes, by the color of their skin, their religion, where they're living, their history, their their history of being united in certain historical situations. But I believe, first of all, race is a biological term referring to some kind of community of people with the same genes. Well, it's hard to say who is belonging to a certain race, because most of our genes we have common. All people in the world has a lot of genes together, and we even have genes together with the monkeys. So it is really hard to define the word race. But nevertheless, the word racism has a great deal of meaning, because there are people that has the idea that they themselves belong to a race being on a higher level than others. Well, before talking about the ideas, the racist ideas in this world, I must admit that I'm totally against racism myself. I'm an anti-racist. I don't like the idea that God should have a favorite race. Some people has more value for God than others, and some people have more moral rights than others. Some people are able to do harm and kill other people without having any moral problems, because these people belong to a higher race. I think this idea is disgusting. It's awful. It's morally wrong. I can't say it's unscientific, because I don't believe that morality has much with science to do. It is a feeling you have in your mind and your body that something is right and some other things are wrong. And for me, I have to say, racism is very wrong. There are at least 4 kinds of racism. The first I'll call Nazi racism. It was the idea that Adolf Hitler, he expressed it in his book Mein Kampf. And in this book you could read that the Jews were the reason of everything bad that has happened in world history, and therefore the Jews had to be expelled from Germany. And when the World War II was on, it was impossible to expel them from Germany, and therefore they were killed. They were exterminated. This was the idea of Adolf Hitler, because he believed that he himself and most of the Germans, they belonged to the Aryan race, and this Aryan race was on a higher moral level than other races. Hitler, he never had any kind of proof of this concept, but this was his personal way of seeing things, and most of the Germans, they agreed with him. So the Jews were expelled from Germany, And later on, you know what happened to the Jews in the concentration camps. A second kind of racism is the racism you have in Lutheranism. Martin Luther, the founder of Protestantism and of Lutheranism, he was a real racist. He wrote in one of his books that all Jews had to be killed. Well, this was nearly 500 years before Adolf Hitler, and he thought that the Jews had to be killed. You don't have to be surprised when I tell you that Adolf Hitler was an admirer of Martin Luther. Actually, it was the first time that the program of Martin Luther to kill all Jews, Hitler, he nearly tried to make that in practice, to expel the Jews in Germany and to kill the Jews he couldn't get rid of any other ways. A third kind of racism I would call political racism. Political racism is the idea that certain politicians in Europe and America have even today. Today, in my small country, Denmark, we have real Nazis, only a very small minority. But we have a big party in our parliament where quite a few of their leaders have been convicted for racism. It's called Dansk Folkeparti, Danish Folk Party. And the same kind of political parties you have all over Europe. They're called nationalistic parties. They want to defend Europe for all the intruders coming from outside. What they call intruders is in fact refugees coming from countries where the USA-led coalitions has been bombing and destroying everything, so people are not able to live in these countries anymore. I'm talking about Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and other countries. In these countries, it's nearly impossible for normal people to survive. So people, they flee to Europe, and they'll do anything to get a new home where they're safe from being killed. But these people are not allowed to get into Europe because of the racist political parties in Europe. They want to make it impossible for them to get into Europe. That means they have to stay in the countries where they come from and where they are getting killed. This is very immoral, and all kind of racism is always very immoral. We've talked about Nazi racism, Lutheran racism, political racism, and now I'll talk a little about Jewish racism. Well, if you read the Old Testament, you'll find out that there are rules saying that you have to kill anyone not being a Jew. You can read it in Deuteronomy 13, Deuteronomy 17. I'm looking here from my script where I've written the exact quotes, but you can check it out in your own Bible. Deuteronomy 17, verse 3 to 6. All disbelievers in the Jewish faith has to be stoned to death. That means they have to be killed. And the same idea you will find many places in the Jewish Talmud, that the Goys, the non-Jews, you can kill them, you can steal from them, you can do anything because they are not real Jews, they are not real human beings. So you don't have a moral obligation to these people. They are on a lower moral level than yourself. And even Jesus, the Jew that started Christianity, he said in Luke chapter 19, verse 11 to 27, that you can kill everyone who do not want to have me, that is Jesus, as their king. So he was saying the same that you can read many places in the Old Testament and in Talmud, that everyone not being a follower of Jesus, they should be killed. Of course, in the Quran, the Islamic book Quran, you can read a lot of racist quotes too, because in the Quran it said that you can kill the Jews and you have to kill all infidels. You have to kill the Christians too, of course. So I think nearly all religions has this idea. You can go and kill the followers of other religions. Actually, there have been quite a few genocides in history, and most of them has been inspired by racism, either Christian racism, Jewish racism, Nazi racism, or political racism. We all know about the Holocaust, where around 6 million Jews were killed. But you have to remember that the Americans, when they came to America, they had to kill 15 million Indians before they had conquered this whole territory. Around 15 million Indians. That means the people that you can see nowadays in Hollywood movies, so-called cowboy movies, the original people living in what is today called USA. Nearly all of them were killed, and that is around 15 million. That is a very big genocide made by Christian racists in America. I mentioned the Nazi Holocaust, and we also have to remember the Turkish Muslim Holocaust against the Armenians, the Christian Armenians. The Turks, they killed around 1.5 million Armenians around 1915 because they thought that these Armenians, they were allied with the Christian Russia, because this was First World War and Turkey and Russia were in war with each other. But these Armenians, they constituted around 30% of all Armenians in the world. That means, seen from a procentual point of view, it's one of the biggest genocides in world history. And even today, Turkey do not want to accept that they killed that many Christians just to keep Turkey a Muslim country like it is today. This last genocide I want to mention is the Muslim genocide against the Hindus. It took around 100 years, and you can read a lot about it in history books from India. The Muslims, they had a majority in a lot of places in what is today called India. And where they had majority, they just killed out the Hindus, because Muslims, they really don't like Hindus. Around 200 million, I repeat, 200 million Hindus were killed from around 1700, the year 1700, until the year 1800. So this is the biggest Holocaust, the biggest genocide in world history, when we're only talking about the factual numbers. Well, now I've talked about 4 kinds of racism, and I hope that you are an anti-racist like me, because racism is the ideological background behind genocide. And if you are a man or woman that wants a peaceful world, I'm sure you are against genocides. And when you are against genocides, you have to be against racism. Thank you for listening.